I find in life I'm always constantly upgrading, and I find life is, it's a cycle. Once you understand that life is a cycle, meaning that there's always going to be a day and a night, there's always going to be another winter and another summer, you can start to take advantage of that. And there's always going to be opportunities. There's going to be times where you feel a stimulation for something, you feel like you want to go do something, and that relates a lot to, if you look at your astrology chart, you can also look at things like hormonal cycles, just whatever, and it relates to you. Maybe you're a person that in winter you like the winter more, or maybe you're a person who likes the summer more. You'll find these commonalities where just different times of your life where it's just similar and same. And every year is another opportunity to improve yourself and improve your life. I find first you got to clean something and then you can fix it. Usually that's how things work. So that's kind of, the order of operations. You clean and then you fix. It's a bit like in medicine. If something like an area of the body's really messed up, you try to like shave away or cut away at, all the bad parts, and then you salvage and bandage up and disinfect and, fix what you can of the good and hope that it regrows as much as it can. I find life's a bit like that. Wood, if you let wood rot, you have to, or metal, rust, you have to shave back the rust, but then most of the stuff internally is still useful. So, things like vehicles, for example, if you bought a vehicle and it was secondhand and you are a good-natured person, you would be fixing that vehicle. If you're a bad-natured person, you would be breaking it more, to the point where if a bad-natured person bought a new vehicle, 10 years later it would be, in a trash pit on fire, essentially, all smelly and nasty. Well, if a person of a good nature bought a used vehicle, 10 years later it would be, in very good condition, still running properly. It's the same thing with the house. It's just, it's with any possession. It's not only possession, it's relationships. That's why I found when I was in a state of continuous evolution and like rapid change in my life when I was a bit younger, it was difficult to have friendships and to be around family members because I was changing so quickly. I imagine it's the same today, except maybe it's like, I talk to someone one day and then the next day it's, who knows, I've just gone past them or something. I'm not sure. But I found that I always had to download updates, and I always had to give other people updates, because we wirelessly, like a computer, we give other people updates. So just say if you are in a family or a friendship, you're going to give an update to another person, and inherently they're not the one evolving unless they actually are. They're putting in the work. But if they're not, like most people, then they're not really going to be evolving much. When they're around you, they kind of have to pretend like they're a little more enlightened and such, and then they go back to their usual selves. It's just a thing that I find, of course, it's like technology just continuously evolves and grows and such, we do as well. Our health should get better. We should get better. We should get smarter. And of course, it's a bit like when I was younger, I made some really nice music, like, 5, 7, 10 years ago, maybe. I haven't really made anything like that. Of course, as I've gotten older, it's gotten easier to make music or art or do whatever thing, because everything just gets easier as you get older, I find. But because I didn't have that that time to just have no responsibilities or next to no responsibilities and just work on one thing for ages, for hours and hours, I haven't been able to do things like that anymore. So, things do change, of course, but as I said, I can achieve things, I can achieve better results with less effort. Now, as I said, with age, you should be getting better at things. And it's a bit like once you know, the kind of path to adulthood is to understand society and how to live in it and how to function in the world. Eventually, you just understand society and the world to an extent. You're not a master at it yet, but well, maybe you are, but you at least understand it to some extent. And at that point, you can kind of focus your efforts on other things. It's a bit like when the body is growing, a lot of the nutrients are to feed the body. Eventually, once the body stops growing, you don't need all that nutrition. You can spend the nutrition on other things. The same way when you're learning about society, trying to become an adult, you're spending all that mental energy, which in turn is a form. It comes from nutrition. It's just feeding the brain and the other part and the other parts. And then eventually you don't have to do that, and you can because you've learned how society works. You know how to drive and get around and make money and spend money and talk to people and do whatever thing you want, and you can spend your energies elsewhere. Same thing, getting back to people who are lower class usually have bad houses. They're physically kind of ill. If you don't want to fall into the lower class and keep your possessions maintained and clean, keep your house and car maintained and cleaned, and yourself. If you look at like divorced people, for example, you can see their relationship just went down. It just but it was a product of them. Relationship is a product of people. Of course, sometimes people get together that aren't meant to be, but at the end of the day, if the both people put in the work and they really work at it, I think they can have a successful relationship. But you can see if people are not doing well and they're not advancing themselves and they're deteriorating, they're getting worse, that their relationships will suffer, and then their house will suffer. This happens if someone becomes like a drug addict. Can you imagine if you're married and then your spouse became a drug addict, or they got addicted into like gambling or some really bad thing? It takes a strain on the rest of the family. The same way if someone is sick in a household, it strains the rest of the family, because everyone's forming a kind of collective digestive system or collective body, almost, so to speak, in a household, in a country, and in the world. So we all function together in a way. But it really just goes to show, if you learn how things fall, companies, relationships, people, houses, how they get decrepit and non-maintained and such, you can learn how to avoid that. Really, all it just comes down to is it's like, you build yourself and your health up, and then you build your house and your family, and then you build society and the world. It really all comes from you. It's just taking pride and responsibility and care for the world around you. But really, the main point is just continual upgrading, continual bettering. And of course, as I said, it's cyclical, so you go up and down, but ultimately you get better and better and better. That's pretty much it. Every year you try to make more money, or maybe it takes you 2 years. If you go forward and backwards, who knows? Every year you try to have better friendships, better marriage or whatever. You try to clean your house and fix your house up more. If you do those things, you'll live a better life and you'll be more happy. I guess a little example, today I made this clothes hanging rack indoors, because it seems like it's always wet and cold where I live, so you pretty much never get to hang clothing outside. So I built one out of wood and bamboo. The wood was recycled from a house construction bin, and the bamboo was from the yard, because there's some bamboo growing there, which is nice. I wish there was more, but anyway, I built it out of that, and also I split a log in 4 for the legs. And when I built it, which was like years ago, I don't know, like 4 years ago maybe, I used like these thin nails. I didn't really understand how to build all that well. Admittedly, the framing was fine. It was just the unorthodox parts of it, like the log split in 4, and well, the bamboo worked fine. Basically just the outer framing. And today I put some screws into it. You know, screws are basically the cheat mode for making framing it's not wobbly. It's like thick nails. If you put a real thick nail into something, it doesn't wobble all that much as long as you get it really nicely in there. A screw is the same because it's got all those flared parts, so it's really hard to, you know, move wood with screws in it, especially if you do it correct. Like you get the right angles and you get the right areas and such. And I put some in. The frame is a lot less wobbly, a lot less, you know, falling out at the nails. So that's an improvement. And that's the thing, all your stuff you improve. If you make your own stuff, you can improve it year by year. You make your own software or whatever, who knows. You improve it year by year, and that's how society usually works. Of course, it's, you know, the idea of things were better in the past, to an extent. You know, there's different cycles where products, you know, people and such go through different cycles. There was a time when things were really sturdy in the past. They're really sturdy. Now they're not as sturdy, but now things are much more technological, and there'll be another phase in the future, or maybe everyone will just be making their own stuff in the future, 3D printing it out of, you know, I don't know, custom fabrication, something like that. Who knows? Anyway, that's about it. Of course, feel free to click the links in the description if you're interested in social and commercial things, and have a nice day. Goodbye.